Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about on my list was romantic relationships when you have neurodivergence. And I already feel like this would be a super long video, so I'm going to do my best to distill it down to its simplest form and say that I can't necessarily speak too much to what it's like to have a relationship where I am on the spectrum and my partner isn't. And maybe this should have been an indicator to me to have gotten diagnosed a long time ago. But every partner I've had has been on the spectrum. I've had 4 major relationships, and each of those people were on the spectrum. And so I can speak to that. And I want to preface it with that because I haven't been in a relationship where someone was not on the spectrum. So I don't know what it's like for that. But in each relationship, because obviously once you do something a number of times, a pattern reveals itself. And we are pattern recognizers. So I recognize real fast, like, oh, hold on. I feel that relationships, especially romantic ones, are usually the most prevalent for us because we usually don't have a lot of capacity, time, space, energy to devote to multiple things at once, typically, unless you're really rested and regulated and have had support systems and whatnot. But most of us haven't, and most of us have been masking, especially if you're late diagnosed, and even if you're not late diagnosed. And so I want to add that in there too, because I feel like a lot of the times the experiences that we have in this life when it comes to other people is typically with the ones that we choose to try and build long-term romantic relationships with. I have yet to develop a long-term friendship. I would love to do that. But I'm speaking to romantic relationships because of that reason and not just relationships in general. And I would say that my experience has been, and I've had to give myself a lot of grace in this because I used to give myself a lot of judgment for it. It's the kitty, sorry. I got distracted. There was this girl, I have to preface it with this little baby story. So I love Parks and Rec. I loved April Ludgate. And I used to have a pin on my little lanyard thing that I wore when I worked at the movie theater. And it had her looking, and she's like, that's gross. I love it. And I just liked wearing that pin because I liked April Ludgate energy. I felt like she represented an unmasked version of myself that I just couldn't be. And I remember there was this girl that I was working with, and she looked over at my pin, and then she looked at me, and she was like, oh, she's in the closet in the other room. I got confused for a second. She said, you want to be April, or you think that you're April, but you're really Anne. And if you've seen Parks and Rec, then you know what she's saying. You know what she's saying when she said that. And I was like, and I didn't immediately just like, deny it, but it shocked me. I was like, what? I was like, no, I'm April. She's like, no, you're Anne. I was like, no, I'm April. And like, obviously, like personality wise, I was not giving that. I wasn't giving April, but she is me on the inside. She's me when I can take off the mask. And so I want to preface with that little baby story because I feel like there was something that they highlighted about Anne in Parks and Rec about whenever she was dating someone, she would take on her partner's personality and she would basically become them. And that's not something like I felt like kind of like that's kind of what she was maybe getting at or hinting at when she said it to me. But something that I think is really important if you're on the spectrum to give yourself grace about is that I have noticed this from the people that I dated that I didn't become those people, but my focus became so much about that person and learning about them and everything about them and all the things they liked and didn't like and their preferences and their habits and their routines and their emotions and their history and their childhood. And I just like wanted to just, hyper focus. It became a special interest that I never took the time to get to develop any of that when I was developing from elementary to middle to high school. So much of my focus, I was moving every year. So I was really resetting every year and remasking every year at every new school that I went to that I never really took any time to develop who I was and what I liked outside of things that I always just carried with me from like really tiny. which is like watching movies, food, dancing, singing, just theater and musicals. And that always carried along with me. But exploring anything outside of those things, I kind of just kept to those things because those things helped me feel safe as I continued to just keep moving and transitioning and going into new experiences. So by the time I started dating, because I wasn't interested in boys in middle school, I wasn't really interested in high school. And I feel bad because, like, I'm sure the guys that tried to date me were just like super confused by how I acted. Like, I could care either way if I dated them, and like, but it wasn't to be mean. I just was like, I don't get this yet. Like, this doesn't make sense to me yet to be doing this. But I'd be like, sure, why not? Yeah, we can date. And then it wouldn't be what I thought dating was, and what their expectations were completely different than mine. And so a lot of times they wound up getting really upset that I wasn't doing what they thought I should be doing, but they didn't communicate that. And I thought, if you were asking me if you want to date, that means you want to take me out on dates, but that's not what it means. So anyway, slight trigger warning. So if you have any experiences where you were not treated well romantically, physically, emotionally, mentally, then don't listen to the next 1 minute starting now. So my senior year of high school, I did have a boyfriend, and he did assault me. And it wasn't just an isolated incident. I wasn't really living with my parent at the time, so I was a little bit more exposed. I was very naive. I was very gullible. I basically just dissociated, and I recently learned that most women who are on the spectrum, typically 80 to 90% of them, experience this. So maybe if you weren't triggered, you have experienced this as well. But I basically went into like freeze and fawn instead of fight or flight, and just froze and then fawned myself because I was afraid to get hurt more. So I basically would just dissociate and just kind of wait for it to be over. And then by the time that senior year ended, they went into basic training. I got to release myself and be free. And then I was like, oh, I'm not doing that again. So I kind of just focused on my first friend group, which I ever had was when I first started working at the movie theater. So from then on out, my interest in partners was really just as I was learning about myself and growing myself, now that I was out of high school and I was entering into new realms where not everything was so structured in that way, and I got to make my own choices and, write my own story. And so every time I was with a partner, I did learn a lot of different things that I never knew about. Like, I've come to find some of my favorite musical artists, my favorite movies, new foods, new experiences, new hobbies, just like, I got gifted so many beautiful things from those people. And it was simple, like, it was those people because those are the people I was spending time with. If they would have been friendships, I would have developed and experienced so many beautiful things from my friends. It just happened to be people I was dating. Oh, I think my friend just got here. I might have to record the rest in a minute because I'll be thrown out of my flow. So I'm going to pause it, but I remember where I'm at and I'll come back. Okay, I said I wouldn't forget where I was at, and I didn't. So I'm really proud of myself. But every relationship that I was in really did bring so many beautiful things to me in different parts of myself that it wasn't it wasn't true to me. I just had never discovered it, or had never had the time, space, or energy to explore those things because of how consistently I moved. But it wasn't until I started kind of becoming more adult and trying to be an adult. So my first relationship was kind of like, I'm just now entering the bill world. I hadn't really gotten an apartment just yet, but then when I did, I hyper focused on I'm just gonna work. And I worked 3 jobs. As long as I had a bunch of money in savings, I felt okay. And of course, as spirit would have it, eventually my life led to having experiences where that was not the case. The more I adulted, the shorter my bounce back time was. And it was through most of my 20s, I was basically in 2 relationships for most of my 20s. And in each one, again, it wasn't I want to explain this in a way that's helpful for other people who are trying to reflect on maybe some of the patterns within their own romantic relationships. But because I had never taken that time throughout my 20s first to unmask, I was trying to learn how to adult neurotypically. I wasn't catering to my sensory sensitivities and needs, and I was chronically working myself and just I am grateful that I didn't really turn to a lot of things to help myself. Except for food. That was my hyper focus. And I still really love food, and I don't think it's a bad thing to love food. It nourishes us and makes us happy, and there's so many different combinations, but that was the thing that kept me going. So obviously that's not the thing that should keep you going. Is, well, at least I get to eat something. But in both of those relationships throughout my 20s, I was so vast. I was overworking. I didn't spend any time with myself. I didn't cater to my sensory needs. That neither of those relationships really challenged me, because I had already cultivated and developed who I needed to be to hold a space for that other person. I didn't allow them to see me so they could decide if I was someone they could hold space for. And that led to me feeling not seen, not met, not heard in relationships where I didn't allow someone to see me or hear me. So I had to learn that after, obviously, the feeling like in some instances I would attempt to be seen or heard. Like I would kind of, take the mask off a little bit. And it was probably just too jolting, to be honest. Like imagine you're with someone, building a relationship with them, and then like some part of their face you've never seen before they show it to you. It's very Phantom of the Opera. And I love Phantom of the Opera, so I've been thinking about that a lot. Sorry, the camera did something funny. I've been thinking about that a lot as I've been processing how hard I mask. And actually this is like bothering me now that I saw the camera glitch, so I'm gonna actually turn you a little bit so we don't have to see that. Yeah, that's better. I put this blanket here because the sun comes in through this side. And I was watching, oh my gosh, side note, I was watching Lord of the Rings last night. I used to watch Lord of the Rings every night for bed in 7th and 8th grade, and it was just so amazing, and my friend had never seen it, and I was like, you're watching it. It's my birthday gift. Watch Lord of the Rings. So I got to watch it last night. We're going to watch The Two Towers tonight. Anyway, so it wasn't until like end of my 20s, entering my 30s, that I was for the first time in a relationship that required me to not move. I was really grounded in a home environment. And in that experience, I really learned what it looked like. You would think I would learn you would think I would have learned what it looked like to be like, oh, I'm really here. I'm really not going anywhere. Let me figure out like a foundational place to work. Let me figure out like how to really hold a space for myself here. Let me really relax into this and just let myself be here. And I could not. I think this is the AuDHD thing. I could not. Every goal I had was to get out. Every goal I had was for us to finish building the van and start living in the van and traveling in the van. Like no part of me wanted to be like, yeah, I'm in my, house era. I was not feeling that at all. And something that I kind of lament about is that had I really known that I would have been there, because I thought maybe we'd be there a year max when I was with that partner living with their mother, I really thought we would only be there for a year max. So to recognize that I was there for like basically 4, had I known that, and like someone like spirit would have come to me and be like, hey, you're gonna be here for 4 years. There's no getting out of it. You'll be here for 4 years during your Saturn return. You're gonna be here. I could have like surrendered some more. I was really struggling to surrender. I even struggled to say. I really struggled to surrender into that, but I wish I would have, because I could have done so many different things. I probably could have focused on my finances better. I could have found a longer term stable job instead of doing that. I kept trying to find ways to just build the van and save enough money to start traveling and find work elsewhere. Like it was not the adult way to go about it. And I didn't recognize that at the time, because I thought I was like, I'm trying to do something that is going to make us independent of this home. I'm trying to like, this is what I thought an adult would do, is like try and find a way to live on their own and not in the household. But it wasn't until, and this was just my most recent relationship, that like the pattern broke. The pattern finally ended, and I think it was because it was in conjunction with my Saturn return. I have another video I posted about what I think Saturn return does to people who are on the spectrum, but I don't want this to be super long because I don't remember how long the last section was, so I don't want this to be long. If there's an interest in like talking about this more, I can definitely deep dive into all of the things I learned from my romantic relationships, specifically each person. But I would say in a huge overarching theme, it's been about entering into relationships in the incorrect way, potentially being not sought out for because of my helpfulness and agreeableness and potentially my innocence and naivety, but in some ways yes, but also for the mask that I could wear. It's not like a permanent mask. It's almost like a mirror. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm like, this is like in real time being realized. The mask is like a mirror. And so, whatever person stands in front of it, they see themselves in me. They see an aspect of who they are in my mask, in the mirror, because I'm reflecting them. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Please tell me if this is resonating for you right now. If you're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what it's felt like. When someone comes into your life and stands across from you, does it feel like the reason they're so drawn to you and pulled to you, and maybe sometimes you're stuck in relationships where you are like struggling and drowning, but the other person's so happy and they don't see any issues, is because you're perfectly reflecting exactly what it is they like want to see, or like the aspect of themselves that you see, like, because you see like all the beautiful intricate parts of them. So sometimes you can reflect the dark parts to someone. I've definitely know how to do that. But when you want to give and love someone and support them, you show how beautiful it is that you see them. I'm wondering if that's some of the struggle for more than just me, uh, in terms of being on the spectrum, is that people just love what they see when they look at you, because you're showing them the most beautiful parts of themselves, and they're like feeling reminded of their own light through you. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. But I say all that to say, what I'm trying to do now is like, it's so easy to just hold up a mirror and reflect that to people, so that you can be accepted, you can be loved, you can grow something, build something with someone who you do find as a really beautiful person, but you're not allowing them to see you. You're not allowing them to know who you are and what you need, and becomes so much more about the other person. At least for me. I don't want to speak for everyone. I would say now what I'm attempting to do is like take off the mask and let someone see me. And if they see me and can receive me as that first, and want to build something with me through that, then I can just take a mirror out of my pocket and like hold it in front of I can like have a mirror in my heart instead of on my face. And the light and love within my heart center can reflect what I see in their heart, instead of like on my face and hiding like me. Instead of hiding me, I'm not hiding the heart when I put the mirror in front of it. It's more like a magnifier. It's like I'm still working on this part, obviously, but I'm definitely taking off the mask. It's no longer a mirror. There's nothing there except my face, and I can still hold up a mirror and reflect beautiful things to someone else. It doesn't have to be everything that I do. I can just not emote if I don't want to emote. I can be nonverbal for a long time if I want to be nonverbal. I can talk for 2 hours if I want to talk for 2 hours, etc., and so on and so forth. I'm going to end it here because it's getting kind of long in conjunction with the other one. But if you're interested in hearing more, please share. If you resonate with anything that I said, please share, because like I said, some of these talks are like just to like get feedback and like see if others in the community feel this way. So thank you so much if you do that. As always, I am sending you peace. I'm sending you love.